Hey folks, James Shurts here with Great Plains Ag Product Management. Here I've got Matt Wolfe, Business Development Manager from Ag Leader. Matt, appreciate you being with us today.
Yep, Jim, thanks for having me.
You bet. So interesting, exciting opportunity here for a factory-approved aftermarket installation that Matt's going to walk you through for the Ag Leader SureForce hydraulic downforce system, as well as the SureDrive electric drive system, compatible on the 5000 series row units as well as the 25 series row units. Really gives you a great aftermarket upgrade option for the PL and previous vintage of planters. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Matt's going to walk you around some of the features and benefits of the product, talk about how we're going to order, how you can get set up as an Ag Leader dealer, and then we're going to wrap it up and close on, address any of those final open points. So Matt, with that, why don't you give the guys an overview of what we've got?
Yeah, sounds good, Jim. Let's get started. So for our planter walk around, we're going to begin at row 1. And I'm going to talk about some of the row unit level components that we install that are going to help your customers manage their planting depth better, also manage their sidewall compaction, also help to control spacing, get more uniform, even emergence. Probably the #1 yield hitter is depth loss. There's no question about it. If we lose depth, we're not going to have consistent emergence. We're not going to have uniform pollination. So we really want to try to make sure that we're maintaining the correct planting depth. And we do that with our hydraulic downforce system called SureForce. And what the SureForce system does is it's got a couple key components. The most important component being our gauge wheel load sensor. So our gauge wheel load sensor installs, basically it's a part of our depth adjustment system. So when this row unit is sitting on the ground, there's load on the gauge wheels, that locks your depth system in place. And now, as the planter travels across the field, we're taking 200 readings per second, and we're really determining how much weight's being carried on the gauge wheels. And then we send that feedback back to our computer, the InCommand 1200, and its modules that are connected to the system, and they in turn automatically adjust the SureForce actuator so that we're always changing our down pressure to match the current field conditions or variables that can impact your planting depth. So there's a lot of things on here that can impact planting depth. Obviously, tillage conditions, soil moisture, could also be weight on the row unit, could be compaction from tire tracks, it could be a number of things, soil type changes. So as we run into that variability in the field, that's obviously going to change how our row unit rides, how much weight we carry on it, and then we automatically adjust the hydraulic down pressure to maintain the appropriate planting depth or the planting depth that the operator set, but also minimizing sidewall compaction. So yeah, we talk about how important depth is, maintaining planting depth, but also having too much down pressure can be just as bad because we can create sidewall compaction around our seed trench, which causes root development issues, basically poor plant growth. Those roots are going to grow up and down the seed trench. We get those hatchet roots. They're not going to expand out and find available soil nutrients and moisture. So that's really what these SureForce components are trying to do, is to help your customers basically manage planting soil variability and such. The other thing that we've got installed on this row unit is our SureDrive electric drive. Now what's nice about the SureDrive electric drive, it's designed to be used with the meter that you already have. So we're using the Great Plains Air Pro meter. It's a great meter. We simply attach our SureDrive motor to these meters, and that's going to provide you with variable rate automatic population control. It's going to provide you with section control, row by row section control. It's also going to provide you with turn compensation. So as you go around a turn, it's going to help to give you uniform spacing in those turns. Now, I want to turn our attention back to the hydraulic down pressure, because there's a few things that we need to understand on the row unit that are going to impact how this down pressure system performs and responds. So obviously this particular planter is equipped with row cleaners, trash whippers, residue managers, whatever you want to call them. Some planters may have a no-till coulter on them. We also have our disc openers, and we have our closing system. All of those ground contacting attachments are going to impact how that row unit's going to ride through the soil. That's why it's so important that we're able to automatically adjust and manage our down pressure. But I want to talk about a couple key things with our down pressure that you need to know about. Number one, our actuator is a bidirectional actuator. So depending on certain soil type conditions, we may have to take weight off the row unit. So our hydraulic actuator can lift 250 pounds and it can apply about 650 pounds of down pressure. Now, by default, we don't automatically apply 650 pounds of down pressure. We usually default at about 425. The reason for that is we can literally start to pick up the toolbar. If we start to pick up the toolbar, well, we're not transferring that weight down here to these disc openers. And that's really important to note. We can only apply as much down pressure as your toolbar weighs. We can't exceed that because your down pressure comes from the weight of the toolbar. So the other thing that we've done with our system that's really unique, we kind of have an accumulation effect built into it. This is not a rigid hydraulic cylinder. The reason this is important, if we just put a hydraulic cylinder in here, think about it. If you were to hit a rock with one of these disc openers, what has to happen? Well, if that hydraulic actuator can't give, then it's going to cause unnatural strain on your bearings and your bushings, also on your disc openers. You could bend and break disc openers. So the way our hydraulic roll valve is designed, there's a series of relief valves and a pilot line in here that allow oil pressure to relieve itself in those extreme situations where if we were to hit an obstruction in the field. So this system's been very well thought out, well designed, but the nice thing about it is it's going to help to maintain the integrity of your bushings and your parallel arms, and also your disc openers and your disc opener bearings, so you're not going to wear things out prematurely. Okay, let me start to move away from the row unit now, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of go down the toolbar. So as you can see, we actually install a system on every row. And that's another point to make. The SureForce hydraulic downforce system is a row-by-row system, meaning every row is managed in its own micro environment. So the down pressure on this row is going to be completely different on this row than this row. Looking at this planter, there is a good chance, you know, we've got a big bulk fill central tank here, we've got the weight of the tractor, there's a good chance that the rows in the middle of the planter may need more down pressure than the rows out here on this wing simply because of compaction. That's an example of having a row-by-row system and why it's so effective. Okay, the other thing I want to explain, inside your setbacks on these row units is our module. The nice thing about the Great Plains, the PL5700, is we're able to hide those up in here and protect them very well. The cabling is still loose. We do not have it tied up just yet. We're in the middle of the installation, so this will all get tied up, tucked away really nice, so you don't have to worry about damaging cables, removing cables. But our entire system daisy chains together from one module to the next. So what's nice about that is we no longer lay one great big harness across the planter anymore. We actually do a series of harnesses between each row. I love that concept because if we damage it, if we damage one part of the cable, we can simply go and easily replace it without having to try to find a broken link in a long spider web type harness. The other thing we've done is we've also combined our power and all of our CAN bus communication into one harness. So it makes the installation look a lot cleaner, looks a lot more customized to this planter. The other thing that Ag Leader has done, we've painstakingly made sure that we have the right hose links, the right cable links. We do all that so for different types of planter folding. So what we do is whenever you go in to build your equipment list or your equipment configuration on what you're going to need to order from Ag Leader for this planter, you're just simply going to tell us in our online configurator, okay, I've got a 12-row planter, it's a front fold, and then what it's going to do, the type of meter you have, the type of parallel arms you have, and what it's going to do, it's going to automatically build that shopping cart with all the correct components, and that ensures you get the right cable links so we don't have cables that are too short or excessive that are going to make the installation just look bad. All right, I want to move away from the row level now, and we're going to move back here to the center of the planter. This is where our the components we have that the one component that talks to all the different row units. We've got two things in here that are very important. We have our hydraulic generator, and we have our main hydraulic valve block. So our main hydraulic valve block for the SureForce hydraulic downforce system are hydraulics from the tractor, a pressure, a return, and a no pressure case drain. They get plumbed down the frame, down the tongue, across the toolbar, into the hydraulic downforce block. From there, they tee off, and they also supply oil to our hydraulic generator. What's nice about that is we only have to run one set of hoses and utilize one set of remotes on the tractor for both our SureForce hydraulic downforce and our hydraulic generator. Now, a hydraulic generator is not always required with an ag leader system. If you're only doing SureForce, you do not need a hydraulic generator. But if you're going to be running an electric drive system, likely on a 12-row and bigger planter, probably on this 12-row, I could have gotten away not using a generator and simply got enough power from the tractor's alternator itself. But I chose to put a generator on this one just to be safe. But for a SureForce installation, such as on a twin-row planter, we're not able to put the SureDrive electric drives on a twin-row, but we can put the SureForce on there. We wouldn't need that hydraulic generator. But in addition to that hydraulic generator, we have attached our main planter control module. So the way the system works, we'll have our ag leader in command 1200 in the display, in the cab of the tractor. That's our display. We're then going to have a CAN communication line that's going to run out the tractor. It's going to run down the tongue, along the frame, and it goes into that planter control module. That's the main master module. And then from there, all of our row level modules called RCM2, Row Control Module 2, they're all going to daisy chain together. They're going to communicate with the main planter control module that's going to be in constant communication with the display in the cab. The other thing I'm going to note whenever we get over to the display in the cab, Great Plains planters, the majority of them have isobus on them. Whether they're a working Stepmaster 2, working Stepmaster 3, we're going to be able to utilize those functions through the ag leader in command 1200 universal terminal, meaning you're not going to need that separate display anymore. You're not going to need maybe that display that came with the planter. You'll be able to utilize the ag leader display for all of the different functions on the planter.